Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way, as it is Election Day. And with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers, thank you for being here tonight with me.
And thank you for being here tonight with me. I'm glad for you to see me. And as always, we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And we thank you for coming, and we hope that you have voted, because it's too late to do anything about it now.
That's absolutely right. And we are doing our best. We'll try to keep you guys updated on what is going on out there tonight, because if you're paying attention here, you might be worried about not paying attention there. Ooh, I'm gonna have to cool my router down, or we're gonna have problems tonight. Looking good in your Amish hat, Hawkeye. There you go.
I never thought about it being a Amish hat. This is my old plantation Southerners hat.
There's Chloe's in the house. Thank you. And Richard the Red, boy, do we got a good show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about Jamestown and John Smith. And if I don't put some ice on my router here, we're not going to have much of a show. So hold on. David, you take over for a minute if you can, because I got to go get a pack of ice, okay?
Okie dokie. So, today's the day, or tonight's the night, or whatever. There's been a lot of tension in the air. A lot of, just palatable people with upset stomachs and don't know what to do. But this election tonight and whatever transpires, tomorrow, excuse me. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be less stressed tomorrow. And then I think conversely, there might be actually more people that is feeling squirrely tomorrow. But we all got to just maintain, because they're counting the votes as we speak. And we just got to, chill out and wait till, a few hours from now to see what they come up with. But at the moment, Trump is leading in the electoral votes 205 to 117. That is the current numbers.
Yeah, it says here, Arizona, Harris is ahead, 55 to 41. Come on, people. Voters in Wisconsin, 49 Harris and 49% for Donald Trump in Wisconsin. Iowa, 47.4% for Harris, 51.1% for Donald Trump. Yeah, it's going to be squeaky, but so far you need 270 to win. Trump's got 178 if things hold out. So, yeah, there you go. But they haven't hit California or any of those places yet, so we'll see. And they haven't finished counting, so we don't know. Anyway, enough of that talk. We don't want to bore ourselves with too much, whatever that is, We want to keep it a happy day in our world, because we got bigger and better things to talk about. Now, I've been reading from this little book here that I bought about a year or two ago. And it is the Indian biography and a historical account of those individuals who have been distinguished among the Northern American natives, the orators, the warriors, and the statesmen, and other remarkable characters. And this was printed in 1900. It's Thatcher's Lives of the Indians, Volume 1. Nice little book, and it's got some good stuff in it. And tonight we are going to really start out with the first chapter, basically. And I'm not going to, I tell you what, Groovy Spark, can he buy a vowel? Yes, buy a vowel. We are going to talk vowels with Powhatan and a lot of names that I can't even pronounce, like Opakamkana. And little facts that I found out. Did you know that when the English first came and the Spanish first came, they came as explorers and destroyers, and it really frightened the Indians terribly, and they remembered this. And the Chesapeake Indians, if you know, there's the Chesapeake Bay or river or whatever it is, and those Indians basically cursed or had a prophecy that a greater, stronger power would come around and wipe out Powhatan, who was the king of the whole area there. He had 8,000 square miles of territory, everything from eastern Virginia all the way down to Georgia. He had a lot of area. He had a confederacy. He basically enslaved a bunch of other tribes. But the Chesapeake Indians said that someday somebody would come from across the water and destroy him and take him out. And he didn't like that. So he went over there to conquer the Chesapeake Indians. And instead of like other tribes where you would conquer them and then enslave their women, take their women and children and, kill all the men and whatever you're going to do, he went there with the thought because of what they said in their prophecy, and he killed them all. He wiped them out and made them extinct. And the only thing that we have of the Chesapeake Indians as of today is their legacy and the name Chesapeake Bay, or the Chesapeake River, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so there you go. Scotty's voice says, I'd like to get a Y. Why? Yeah, that's why. I answered the why. Anyway.
Let's see. There's 3 Y's on the board.
Yep, 3 Y's on the board. Can you make that spelling? Not in these days. But anyway, it started out with the Virginia Company being formed. And the English were looking to start a colony, a permanent colony, because there was the colony of Roanoke. That was one of the first colonies. And remember, they got wiped out from the map. Gone. Zero. Nobody around. Disappeared. Nobody knows whatever happened to them.
Spaceship.
Yeah, well, I think they were taken over by the Indians, or they could have starved, which really seems to be what happened with Jamestown. Now,
but the curious thing is they, not that aliens got them. Of course they could have, but it's more of that they didn't find any traces of anything.
They didn't.
And so if they'd been killed by the Indians, there'd be signs of a struggle. There'd be stuff around. There'd be dead bodies or bones. I mean, but to that mystery, that's still a mystery today. That basically, but they still don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I interrupted your train of thought.
Oh no, that's all right. Yeah, it disappeared. But the Roanoke was supposed to be the first colony, but they kind of disappeared. Well, anyway, the east of the Atlantic East Coast was basically staked out by these explorers. And as they explored, they took people. They made them slaves. They were looking for slaves. They were looking for gold and riches and these, the lost treasures or whatever. They weren't really finding it. They were looking for that passage to India, to the Orient. But it wasn't happening. So they decided that there must be gold in our hills and, other precious metals and, this land. There was land there. So they started this company called the Virginia Company of London, hence Virginia. And as they did, they took funding from thousands of people, basically shares in this company to become, and then you could be part of it by being an explorer. So people were signing up for this. You get on a ship and away you go. And 13 years before the Pilgrims even showed up, well, in 1606 they set sail. And in 1605, or this was chartered all by the King James the First, and they were seeking passage to the Orient. They were another big interest was converting the Indians to Catholicism. They had 3 ships that set sail to set out a starting point, a colony, and it was to be off of the coast, maybe down some river or bay where it was protected, and it could have good defenses, but fresh water and more inland. So that's what they were searching for, and they found it. 3 ships set out: the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. Good names. They were carrying about 105 passengers with supplies and trinkets, and their object was to set sail, get out there, and when you get there, to trade with the Indians for your supplies to get started. Use the Indians, claim the land for King James, map out things and do things that they needed to do like that. Of course, you need good men for that. And of course, that's exactly what they did. They got men, and instead of having infighting, they the officials of the Virginia Company, they put together a list of all the men that they wanted to run the colony. They didn't tell any of them who they were, and they put it in an envelope and said, well, when you get there, open the envelope, and that will tell you who will be running the colony. How about that? Surprise, surprise. Right? So, of course, we need visual effects. How about that? Let's have some visual effects. You set out on this little boat across the Atlantic Ocean. Yay! Run by wind, small quarters. These ships were, they're small. You had to have 3 of them to get there with 105 people. So there you go. The men that set sail on this first mission were really not, they were looking for adventure. They were looking for the quick riches. And who were they? Well, just to put it safely, they were English snobs. They didn't know how to do work. They were looking for the adventure. They were, pretty wealthy, and they wanted to make more money. And by coming here to the colonies, they thought they were going to dig into mountains of gold. They were going to harvest the riches from the Indians. They were going to be like Cortez, like the Spanish down in South America, with shiploads of gold to go home with, basking in their spoils, Unfortunately, go ahead.
I was going to say, or ask the question, so where did they get the idea that there was so much gold and there were piles of it? You know what I mean? Just as a general question, because, Cortez came back, but that was years before, and he was in South and in Mexico. So did they just assume that because they had found gold before that they would run into gold? I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If there was gold in the South, there had to be gold in the North. and therefore they were going to find it. They needed explorers and adventurers to do that. They needed men to chop down the trees and exploit the Indians, and and so forth and so on. And this was going to be quite the thing. Unfortunately, things didn't go so well for those 105 passengers. During the ship ride, a lot of them got, kind of sick. James Smith was, they told he was accused of starting a mutiny and maybe trying to take over. So he wasn't very well liked. And when they arrived and they opened up the letter, he was one of the council members to run the colony. And everybody was shocked. And more or less, not even that, they didn't even want him. They wouldn't even put him on the council, even though he was selected. Now, who was John Smith? Captain John Smith. This is him right here. Captain John Smith. He was 27 years old at the time of landing in the Americas there. 27 years old, but he had a long-standing history of things that he did. He was a soldier and an adventurer. He went to war fighting the Turks in the Long War. He was promoted to captain while fighting in Hungary. And while fighting in Transylvania in 1602, he was wounded in the battle and captured and sold to the Turks as a slave. The Turks then sent Smith to give as a gift to one of the Turks did to his sweetheart in Istanbul. But Smith wrote that this girl fell in love with him and sent him to her brother for training to join the Turkish imperial service. Smith escaped by murdering the brother and fleeing through Russia and Poland. He traveled throughout Europe and North Africa before he returned to England in the winter of 1604 and 05. Well, it didn't take him long, and he signed up for the Virginia Company to colonize this new land. And in the boat set sail December 20th, 1606. And during can you imagine being on that ship for 4 months? The 4-month voyage was, he was charged with mutiny by a leader of the expedition, Captain Christopher Newport. Got to keep him in mind because he becomes really important in this. Smith was a prisoner when the ships reached Virginia in April 1607. So this is the spring. They reached there in the spring. Can you imagine sailing in a ship all winter, basically, freezing, and the water's cold? It's probably snowing, blowing ice, and cold. Oh my God. And where are you sitting on this ship? It ain't like you got a heater and you're burning some wood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And a lot of times what the sailors slept in were hammocks that were hung in 2 or 3, they'd have them hung in layers. And the sailors still do that in submarines and the other ships. They still have bunk beds, so but imagine being just swaying in a hammock, freezing.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. The sailors were sleeping in hammocks, and the people that were being transported, they got the hold. They didn't have much for quarters in these small ships. That's why disease ran rampant and people got sick on these boats. And when they arrived at the land, a lot of people remember they didn't have fruits and vegetables like we're thinking, so they got scurvy and things like that. They literally landed with as a disease sick person, put it that way. And
Yeah.
then once you got to land, you got to recover. It wasn't a good thing.
Nope.
So he got with this Virginia company. He got on the ship. He rode the 4-month voyage. He got to Virginia, and remember, they opened the orders, and they were supposed. The colony struggled to feed itself. You know, these ships unloaded. There's 105 men, a bunch of sailors, and you got to have the right winds. So the sailors stuck around for about half the summer. Believe it or not, the sailors were doing a lot of the work, and as they did this work, eventually Newport and Smith, we'll just call him that. Newport was like the captain of the whole thing, and when they got there, they were supposed to do this exploring, but at where my tongue is tied, sorry, the sailors were helping build the fort, and we're going to show you a picture of what the fort looked like. Oops. I got a picture of that too here somewhere. And this is probably what the fort looked like, they would say. And there's a lot of work to be done here. And you got these Englishmen who never done any work in their life. They had servants and slaves and plantations or whatever they did in England. And they come here, and the sailors are doing the work. They're manning the place, and they're hunting and cutting the wood and trees. And remember, you didn't have power tools or big tractors or none of that. They found Jamestown to be good because of the water. It was down a river, which is the James River now. Was at the time it was the Powhatan River, and it was fresh water, which was good, and it had a deep center, so the big ships could come up and down it. On May 13th, they founded a spot for Jamestown, and it had anchorage for the boats. Then they made defensive positions, and so these English snobs were working. Unfortunately, things were not going well, and they were starving. So they set out to make, some deal with the Indians for food. Wouldn't you know it? And Newport and Smith set out. They met some of the Indians. It wasn't so good, and things didn't trade well. The Indians were very standoffish. It was not a good thing. Let's see if I got a picture of that. This is the kind of houses they would have had. Resembles you of like an English house. The thatched roofs, the grass thatched roof, wood and construction. I imagine these wouldn't have been easily heated either. And I imagine these look way better than the ones they had originally. So we're going to go with that. Now, remember, they had to do some trading with the natives. And this could have been what it might have looked like, the trading. Now you're trading with these guys. You don't know how to speak their language. Eventually, you're going to come up. It says Captain John Smith landing on the New England coast in 1615 here. There you go. Anyway, that was more of that. Okay, so then you got to deal with all those Indians, and they're trading, and they're not and there's Smith getting captured. Sorry about that, but the Turks had that picture. I forgot about that picture. Anyway, Newport decides he's going to go back to England and leave Captain John Smith in charge because they needed supplies. And he says, don't worry, we'll go back to England, we'll get more supplies, and everybody will be happy, right? Because the Indians aren't trading with you very much. Not a good thing.
Can I bring something up?
Yeah.
Now, imagine the Indians don't have a lot. That's one thing. So they're really reluctant to like share, regardless of how many trinkets that Smith and Company have. So, the natives, they're scarce already. So just think about that as part of the deal. The reason why they won't trade, they don't have anything.
Well, no, not necessarily. The thing is they were trying to trade with Powhatan and Opakamkana and those tribes. Now there was other surrounding tribes, and there was a confederacy. Remember, Powhatan had conquered the Indians in that area, and he was the king. He was the king. Powhatan was the guy. Powhatan, which is this guy here. This is where we're going to get into this in about a minute here. You asked some really good questions. This is Powhatan. He was about 60 years old at the time, and he ruled a 8,000 square miles area. He ruled over he had about 5,000 natives in his little city. He had about 1,500 warriors in that one city. And all this land that he had in Virginia was very fertile. And all the other tribes that he had conquered paid him tribute with 80% of their crops. So when John Smith and Newport went to the tribes that were closest by, they wouldn't trade much. A few bushel of corn here and a few bushel of corn there, because they didn't have any. They were giving most of their corn and stuff to Powhatan as tribute, like a tax. And, and so there you go. There. And one other big reason, and what other reason could that be? Is that same time of year, the 1605 through 1609, I think it was, there was a tremendous drought like no other. And there was no rain, no water. Things were not growing. So the outside tribes really didn't have grain to trade with. Only Powhatan had the grain. So like I said, Newport, Captain Christopher Newport, that's this guy here. Let's see, here we go. Okay. No, we got Captain Christopher Newport, Admiral of Virginia. There we go. And he decides, he tells, Smith, I'm going to go take a voyage back. I'm going to take some ships. I'm going to get some supplies and some more people. We're going to come back and we're going to really, really get this thing going. And he says, yes, we're going to starve to death if you don't hurry up. So Newport gets in a ship and he leaves. Well, so anyway, he gets in his ship, he leaves. Captain John Smith decides he's going to be smart. He's got a military mind, and he is going to go and trade with the Indians, right? Anyway, so he's gonna. Where do you go trade? You're gonna go to Powhatan, and you're gonna trade there because that is, where the stuff is. He's got the word that the stuff is there. So anyway, I gotta get this straight in my head because I want to put it in a timeline. So this is the adventure of a lifetime. You gotta. I was reading. I was never so into a book as I was when I was reading this story, and I'm not going to read it. I'm going to tell it to you. So Captain John Smith takes a group of men, about 10 of them, and by this time, they had a couple of native translators and that could help them. And Captain Smith had learned some Algonquin too, because that was a native language. They took off on these barges because they were planning to have a big haul of corn. They brought a bunch of trinkets and trade goods to trade, like hatchets and shears and scissors and axes and, those kinds of things. They went down the river, and they got to a point in the river where Smith said, "Hey guys, you guys stay here, and the river's getting kind of narrow. I'm gonna go check it out. So I'm gonna take me and a couple other guys, and we're gonna, hike. We're gonna hike down the way. But you guys here, Smith's smart, and he says, you just stay in the boat." Now they had one of these big long barge skiff boats or whatever it was. And he says, you just stay here. You got guns and muskets, just stay in the boat. And he leaves. Not long after John Smith leaves, guess what happens? Of all things, and you can't make this stuff up. Some pretty half-naked native girls come down to the shore to do whatever they're going to do. And of course, what do you think the sailors or the men on the boat did? Well, they do what men do. And so they got off of the boat and they went down to see the pretty half-naked women on the shore. And who knows what went on there? If they, yeah, Scotty boy, half-naked native girls, exactly. He was after, and they're men. They're gonna look, and they're gonna go over to the women. And they got over to the women when guess who showed up? A bunch of half-naked warriors. And they chased the men off
with spears and knives and stuff.
Yes, they did. They chased them off and back to the boat, and one of the guys was not so lucky. They caught that guy. They stripped him of and close your ears if you don't want to hear this, and if you got little kids around, turn the sound down. But they stripped him naked. To make an example of him, they lit a big giant bonfire. They strapped him down with stakes into the ground, and they cut off all his fingers joint by joint. And then the women scraped his flesh off with seashells. And then when they couldn't scrape anymore or cut anymore, they threw his body into the fire and burned him alive. Yeah. So
if
there you go.
If he was still alive.
Those Indians, they wanted to make sure he lived through that whole thing to, suffer. Because that's what Indians like to do. They like to make you suffer and suffer. It seems to be. It seems like in every story I've ever read, it wasn't a quick death. It was a slow, painful death. Very, very slow. Anyway.
I wonder where they got that from, because the English culture, they had the rack and all kinds of torture devices. So I wonder what it is that's in, I guess, humanity that would, want to not just kill, but make them suffer. I couldn't do it. If I had to kill somebody, it'd have to be quick, because I couldn't listen to them scream or holler or nothing. Nah, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it would have been terrible. Well, anyway, Smith, remember, he'd left with his native translator, and a couple guys. And, somewhere down about 2 miles away, he was shooting at, he had guns, so he was shooting at fowl or whatever, trying to get some lunch. He's hungry. So they start a fire. Now, you might as well have raised a big flag up and said, I'm over here, to the natives. I'm over here. Come get me. And so they start a fire. And he tells one of the guys, you stay here by the fire. I'm going to go hunt for some fowl or something so that we got something to eat. And so him and the native go off, to hunt something. And a little ways away, he hears somebody screaming, which was the guy by the fire, who wasn't really paying attention until the Indians showed up and literally killed him. Okay, so one guy down. Then they tracked Smith. And when they found Smith, Smith fired his gun at one of the natives and killed him. And then the rest of the natives came around, and Smith loading his gun and firing and scared some of them off because, you know, they weren't used to the big banging and the bullets flying and whatever. And back in the day, you know, the smoke and the whatever, it was probably pretty scary compared to what we have now. Anyway, the Indians got really close, and Smith grabbed his native translator and used him as a hostage, you know, and, you know, with the gun and the thing, and used his native translator as a hostage and said, hey, you know, listen up, you know, I mean business here. And if we can get this another picture up there, I don't know if this one's going to be.
That'd be like the Lone Ranger telling Tonto.
Yeah. Anyway.
What do you mean, paleface?
Yeah. Well, anyhow, the point is that Smith has got. Oh no, that's the wrong one for that. Anyway, Smith has got the native, and he is holding him, you know, by the neck with the gun pointed at his head. Remember, oh yeah, you gotta love this picture because this kind of really how the natives were. Remember, the natives back in the day were really big. You know, they were large men. They weren't, you know, 4 foot tall Aborigine kind of, you know, people. They were tall, 6 foot, if not more. Anyway, so Smith's holding the gun to the head of the Indian, using him and backing up, of course, you know, trying to make it back to the boat. He knows if he could get back to the boat or to wherever, he would be safe. Unfortunately, Smith falls into a big mud bog, buries himself up to his waist. Now he fends off his attackers. He did get shot. They were shooting arrows at him, and he did get wounded in the thigh. He got an arrow, and arrows, you know, because the English wore a lot of clothes, he had arrows sticking out of his coat and stuff. He was filled with arrows, but only one hit his thigh and wounded him in the thigh. Eventually, the native that he held hostage, who had gotten away, started screaming, "No, don't kill him. He's a leader. He's a leader," you know. Well, apparently in Indian custom, if you were a leader, they didn't kill you right away. They were to take you hostage and bring you to the big chief, and he will decide what your fate is, you know, because you're a leader. And so that's what they did. Eventually, Smith deciding that, you know, and being told that he wouldn't be killed, eventually gave up his weapons, and they took him to the Indian village, where they, you know, put him in a hut, or they paraded him around the village with all the swords and guns that they had collected from the other Englishmen and him, you know, that he was, you know, because he was captured. But they treated him well. They put him in a cabin. They washed him, cleaned him up, and then fed him with as much food as he could possibly eat, and of all kinds of varieties. As best we could, he could say was venison and fowl and you name it, they had it. Breads of all kinds. And when he was finished, nobody would eat with him. But when he was finished, they came in, gathered up the food, put it in baskets, and hung it from the ceiling. How interesting is that? And once he left that cabin or hut or whatever, then the natives came in and ate the food. But they treated him really well, and eventually they took him to Opakankana. And Opakankana was a chief. he was the brother of Powhatan. And Opechancanough was dazzled with him because Smith, who had things like a compass, he dazzled the Indians with his compass. They were so amazed that the little dial in there would turn, and yet they could see it, but they couldn't touch it because of the glass on the top of the compass. You know how a compass is. They never seen glass before. Well, then they brought him to Opechancanough. And Opechancanough, he was a smart man. He decided that he would, they danced around, they fed him again. He eventually said, I'm going to make you are like a brother, blah, 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 blah. And decided to take him around. And Smith didn't really know what was going on, but he took him from city to city, from native city to native city, and paraded him around through the streets. He got to meet like all the chiefs, and eventually he ended up in Powhatan's city, which what the heck is the name of his city? But anyway, his city was where the city of Richmond, Virginia resides today. Powhatan now took him, and this is where we get the story of Pocahontas. Now, you may have heard the story of Pocahontas, but it wasn't quite so well as it is pictured here, because this is not quite the way it is. Meeting Powhatan was an interesting fact in itself, because this picture is not true because they didn't have teepees. They would have had, shacks with like mat roofs and things like that, a wigwam kind of deal. Anyway, let's see if we can get a better one. So you got Pocahontas, and this is where Pocahontas comes in. Powhatan, he was paraded into his wigwam, fed a bunch of food, and many natives came in. A harem full of young girls came in, and then the chief paraded himself in front of Smith, taking his seat upon many furs. He was dressed in a robe made of raccoon skins and with the tails on, draping down around him. He was seated on a pile of furs. I mean, I can imagine what this must have looked like. A fire in the middle of the room that they were in. And I don't know if I got a picture of that or not. Yeah. So this is what it might have looked like on some sort of, probably much, much bigger. But he had his harem of women. He had his soldiers. And Captain Smith was delivered to him as a prisoner. Now as a prisoner, he was fed, and after they had much discussion, Smith had told him about the world and the moon and the stars, and fascinated him. And I don't know how good that went over. Was Smith's Algonquin that well spoken? I highly doubt that. But he amazed the Indians for a while, and as they were painted in red and white stripes and decorated with beads and feathers from head to toe, and there wasn't one that was not dressed up for the occasion. At the end of this big powwow that they had, two large rocks or stones were hauled into the longhouse that they were in, or stadium or whatever it might have been. Two large stones were hauled in, and that's where we get the story of Pocahontas. And then we're going to go back to this. So we got the story of Pocahontas, these two large stones, and here you can see a stone, and Smith's head was laid upon one, and Powhatan grabbed a sword or a club, while his native warriors strung their bows with arrows and pointed it at Smith, and Smith laid his head upon the rock. And as Powhatan was about to strike him down, well, Pocahontas jumped in front of him. Now, remember, Pocahontas is not this older looking woman here. She was a young girl of 11 or 12. She jumps in front of him and she puts her head on his head and says, "No, don't kill him." Well, Powhatan, in his mercy, says, yes, off the hook says, yeah, she's 12. She was only 12 at the time. He says, takes pity upon Smith and abides by his daughter's wishes, because Pocahontas was his favorite daughter of all his daughters he had. And so he said, I will spare him so him and his people can make me hatchets and bring us copper and beads and things like that. So he's basically trading Smith's life for things. And he's trying to make it just so that his people would understand. Well, after that, Smith was kept there at the Powhatan's village for quite a while and eventually let go, so that he could, or no, before he was let go. Wait a minute. Let's back up here a second. So he wouldn't let him go. But in all just, he said, well, I'll let you write him a letter. Apparently, Smith begged him to write him a letter. So he gave him a letter, and 2 runner Indians took it to Jamestown. Now, this is 2 months he'd been gone. And they took it to Jamestown. When they got to Jamestown, the natives seen the white men, got too scared to drop off the letter, and they ran away. But the letter was found. And they read the letter, and it said, bring, trinkets and gifts or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, for corn and food and whatever. So they did, and they set that out, and that was exchanged. And then Smith got to return back to Jamestown. When he got back, poor Smith, Smith was always in a bind, put it that way. He got to Jamestown, and where they decided that he was a traitor. He got all these men killed on this journey that they did, and they put him in front of the court, and they were gonna hang him.
And they were probably like, where's the boat?
Well, Smith had been gone for 2 months. And
I know, but he was traveling over land probably. But anyway, where's the boat?
Yeah, well, remember those 6 men did survive, and they got back to Jamestown.
Oh, okay. So they took the boat with them. Okay.
They took the boat with them, yes, and told the story. That's how the story part came in. Well, now Smith is a traitor again because he's been gone. He's been cohorting with the Indians, and of course with Powhatan, and this Powhatan guy, he looks pretty fierce, I tell you that. I mean, how would you like to meet up with him? Anyway, Smith gets back, and they decide they're going to hang him for being a traitor, etc., etc. But on the day, this Smith has a lot of luck. On the day that he was about to get hanged, his friend, Captain Christopher Newton, shows back up with more people and supplies. And of course, Newton, ixnays his sentence and says, you're not hanging him, blah, 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 blah. You got to remember, though, now after this 2 months of Jamestown not having food and everything, and going through the summer and the winter and whatever, they went from 105 people to 38. So their ranks were very much diminished. They didn't even have much food. And Newton shows up and he says, I'm here. Look, and I got the ships and I brought more people. And they looked at him like, you brought more people. Yeah, I brought like 150 to 200. I think he brought almost 200 people with him. And they're like, we don't got no food for us. Now what? You brought more people. Well, Newton says, he says, don't worry, I bought a lot of trinkets. We're going to go trade with the Indians. And of course, that works out really well because Newton was not a, should you say, a seasoned trader. Now, Smith, he knew the Indians and he knew them very well. And Newton was trading with the local Indians, and he wasn't really getting a whole lot of stuff for his goods. And the Indians kept demanding more and more and more because, hey, the price of corn went up. We already got axes. So now you got to give us 10 axes for that same bushel of corn. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, they decide that Newton and Smith decide that they are going to have to go trade with Powhatan. And they get another couple of barges, and I think they took 50 men with them, and they went to trade with Powhatan. And they're doing this trading, and this is the great story of the beads. If you have never heard the story of the beads, it's amazing. So Newton sits down with the Indians, and he is saying, let's see here. Here's our Newton guy. And if you were probably trading with this guy, you were probably thinking, oh boy, some dimwit from England. I can't trade with this guy. You're trading with the natives, man. And they're going to outsmart this guy 10-1. And Newton's only getting like maybe 30 bushels of corn. And, because the Indians said, you just put everything you have down on the floor and I'll pick out what I want. And then I will pay you what I think it's worth. So Newton did that. He lays everything down on the floor. The Indians pick out what they want. And he says, okay, here's your 30 bushels of corn. And Newton's scratching his head like, oh boy, I got nothing. This isn't going well. So Smith sits down and he says, okay, well, you might, and then the guy says, you lay down what you got. And Smith says, no, he says, the only thing I got is these beads, these royal beads, the little blue, they're little blue, purple, blue beads. I think they were blue. These are from, only royalty can have these beads. And I really can't part with them. I really don't want to get rid of them. Well, of course, when you can't have something, you want it even more. And so Smith, he's making a deal. He says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you give me 300 bushels of corn, maybe make it 4. I bet you I could part with some of those beads. And Powhatan's like, no, I got to have those beads. I'll give you a freaking, 900 bushels of corn for all those beads. I got to have them.
You can have my wife.
Well, Smith says, well, I guess for that, if you load it on the ships over there, I guess I could give you the beads. And for a few beads, bag full of beads or so, he gave them, like all this corn that filled up all their ships. And away they went. And that's the story of the beads. And then, of course, after that, being only those blue beads, it was almost illegal for anybody in the tribe to have blue beads, except for the royalty Indians. Believe it or not, they became the most valuable thing.
And anything that looked like them.
Yes, exactly. You gotta love it for that. But anyway, we're gonna roll it down from there because I've hit my part of the hour. Here's some stuff. This is a stone I found. It says Captain Christopher Newport Captain John Smith and other Englishmen were welcomed upon this hill by the Powhatan Indians, May 23rd, 1607. Also, this one, Powhatan Stone, an old Indian stone removed from and now overlooking Powhatan's seat, a royal residence of the King Powhatan, when the Captain John Smith and his fellow adventurers made the first permanent English settlement in this country at Jamestown, Virginia, 1607. Powhatan's seat was the residence from 1726 to 1865 of the ancestors of Peter the second Mayo, by whose daughters the stone was presented to the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities. How about that? Anyway, like I said, these the way you had to do business with these Indians, John Smith lied to the Indians multiple times, fabricating crazy stories. He was going to do some trading with Powhatan and said, Powhatan says, you know what I want? I want 2 of your biggest guns, meaning the cannons. And John Smith says, sure, you can have 2 cannons. So he traded for the 2 cannons, and Powhatan sent 10 of his men to go pick up the 2 big guns. So being those cannons weighed about 3,000 pounds apiece, Smith also loaded the cannons with rocks. And then he told the Indians, sure, there they are. You can have them. How crazy is that? So when they got all done, the Indians didn't take those cannons. They gave them some other trinkets. And, the Indians went on their way. So anyway, and then here's, you can see the picture of Jamestown. It didn't last for very long because in 1608, I think it was, somebody lit a fire and burnt the whole place down. And then they had to rebuild. Talk about having a bad day. So there you go. And then they had to rebuild. But anyway, the story goes on, and I will bring you more next week about what happened when John Smith returned and made friends and had food. How did they make it through? And did they have enough food to last? What happened to Jamestown? What happened to Powhatan and the rest of the Indians is a big question. And how did they make it through the next winter? A little spoiler attack is, I'll tell you this, that in the end, in the next probably 5 or 6 years after that, at least 3,000 people came to Jamestown. Sorry. Wait a minute. Let me check my notes. Yeah, 6,000 people came to Jamestown. And after those few years, only 1,200 were left. Not a good average, is it? So our story will get much more interesting next week as John Smith gets burned and they try to kill him. The city burns down. They run out of food, and Delaware comes to save them. And that's where the Delaware River gets its name. So can't be too bad. So what do you got for us this week?
It sounds also like they had spent a lot of time digging graves.
They did. There was a list of graves. It was like when there was only the 105 guys, and then they were burying like one guy a day, or every other day somebody died, or something happened. Somebody was killed or died or whatever. And then the worst part about it is when Newton came back with the next group of people, it got even worse, where everybody was so sick. At one point, there was only 5 men that were not sick to dig the grave. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. You know, you're sick. Everybody's sick. Can you imagine 100 people out there all sick, dying, whatever, and here you are going, who's digging the graves? Who's dying today? Oh, who's gonna bring me food and water? Nobody. Everybody's sick and dying. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It really is. Yeah, because most of these people were starving, and they didn't know how to, um, And the only reason we have all of this is because Smith, he recorded most of this. He had some of the most detailed reports ever, and otherwise we wouldn't know because most of the stuff burned down. People died. He lived. He lived it. Basically, he lived to tell the tale. Put it that way.
Where are my glasses?
Isn't that the way it goes? The guy who lives gets to tell the tale.
Yep, somehow.
Somehow. So what do you think of all that?
I think that they really had it tough back in them days. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they really
yeah.
had
Well,
it tough.
We don't even think about, it's tough when our cell phone don't work or we don't have any service or something. It's like, oh my God, okay, let's do a little election updates. Michigan, Harris is ahead by 1 point. She's at 50%, and Trump is at 190, and she's at 173 already. So not very far apart right now. So there you go.
Trump's got Wisconsin.
The center of the country put it. Yep.
Trump's got Michigan.
He's got 211 and she's got 185 so far.
And the one I'm looking at says 216 to 193. I'm watching Fox.
I am watching CBS. They're saying 190 for the Republicans, 173 for the Democrats. So, no, they're talking about. Okay, he's got 211. She's got 145. It says 270. I'm looking at the wrong chart. He's winning so far by like 60 points. I was looking at the Senate here. That's what I'm looking at. So anyway,
he's picked up
still ahead.
And which is interesting. And it looks like she picked up Virginia.
Yep.
Trump's got Arkansas. Trump's got Pennsylvania. He pulled it off.
Nice.
51 something to 48.
Looks like he's won in Georgia.
Yeah, so far. Of course, he won last time in Georgia till about 11 o'clock. We all went to bed and woke up and he had lost. So
that's what I mean. Until tomorrow morning, we really don't know who wins because
I'll tell you what. The state of Georgia is went to a lot of trouble to make sure that they were, going to do it right this time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So
far, so good.
So far, so good. Exactly. So anyway, let's get back to our.
And it looks like they're the Senate races. There's going to be a little change up too. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out tomorrow. So
absolutely.
There you go. So our story for tonight is turtle dove, sagecock, and the witch. And I guess because Halloween was last week, we can have a witch in the story. Let me get me some swallow to drink. This I'm still reading from the American Indian Fairy Tales, Snowbird, the Water Tiger, etc., 1907. Turtle Dove, Sagecock, and the Witch. Turtle Dove was a widow with 2 children. Yellowbird, a girl 11 years of age, and Sagecock, a baby boy. The girl was big, awkward, and stupid, but the boy, though only a baby, gave signs of being a remarkably bright child. Turtle Dove was always anxious about him, for an old witch who lived in that part of the country stole every little boy that she could find. One day, Turtle Dove went down to the valley to gather seeds and herbs. She carried her baby on her back, but he was heavy, and after a time she grew tired from the weight and the constant stooping. So she took the baby and laid him under a sagebrush, telling his sister to watch him. Presently, the old witch came that way, and going up to the bundle, felt it all over, and asked Yellowbird what it contained. "It is my sister," said she, for she thought the witch would not want to steal a girl. Then the old witch scolded her, growing more and more loud and angry in her speech and manner, until her eyes stood out, glaring at the girl, and her grizzled locks rattled like the naked branches of the trees. Yellowbird grew cold as ice and could not even scream. She was so frightened. The old witch, seeing that she was not likely to be attacked, seized the little papoose and flew away with him on her bat-like wings to the distant mountain, which no man can climb by reason of the rattlesnake forest at its base. When she reached her den, which was a hollow place, black with cinders and hidden from sight by a clump of hemlock trees, she laid the boy on the ground, broke the strips of deer skin that held his fur blanket over him, and stretched his legs till he became a man. "Now," said she, "I shall have a husband." Although Sagecock had suddenly grown to a man's size, he had only a baby's heart and knew no better than to marry an ugly old witch. When Turtle Dove returned and heard Yellowbird's story, she was very angry and would not forgive the girl for not calling her. She spent day after day searching among the rocks, and wherever a wild beast or a witch might have a hiding place. She left no clump of bushes, however small, unexplored, but all to no purpose. At last she went to her brother, the eagle, and told him her story. Eagle was keen of sight and a swift hunter. He put on his war feathers and his war paint and set out in search of the boy. One day he heard a baby crying, but he did not recognize its voice. He told his sister, and she begged him to take her to the place, for she felt sure that she would know the child's voice, and he would know hers. They went towards the witch's mountain. Before they reached it, they heard the child cry, but did not know how to get to him because of the rattlesnake forest. Eagle thought he would try his magic, for he was one of the wizards of the tribe. He took 2 feathers from his headdress and spread them out into wings, which he fastened upon his shoulders. He then placed Turtle Dove on his back and flew with her over the forest of the rattlesnakes. He hid some bushes while the mother called, "Sagecock, Sagecock." The child cried and strove to get out of the den. He did struggle, though, through the bushes, but the witch caught him. Then, with one blow of her stick, she killed a mountain sheep nearby, and taking the boy in her arms, jumped into its stomach. She pulled the wool about them and lay very still. Meanwhile, Eagle killed a rabbit and put it on the top of a tall pine tree, then peeled the bark so that it would be hard to climb. They watched for days, but no success. At last, the old woman grew hungry, and Sagecock cried for food. So she crept out and, seeing the rabbit, tried to get it. When Eagle saw her, he knew that the baby could not be far off. He stretched himself full length on the ground and listened with his ear to the earth. First, he heard a faint cry, which seemed to come from the sheep. Then, as he went nearer, he heard the boy's heart thumping and knew just where to go. He found the baby, caught him up in his arms, and ran quickly with him down to the edge of the rattlesnake forest. Knowing the old witch would follow him, he raised a great snowstorm that covered all his tracks, so that she should not know in what direction he'd gone. But in his haste, he dropped 2 eagle's feathers, and the witch knew at once who had stolen her husband. She went to her brother, one of the chiefs of the rattlesnakes, and asked him to take her part. He hated her, for she was always getting him into trouble. But she was his sister, and he could not refuse. Just then, Eagle's war whoop was heard, and having no place in which to hide her, he opened his mouth and let her jump down his throat. She would not be still and bothered him so much that after Eagle had passed, he tried to throw her off, but he could not rid himself of her, and at last he wrenched himself so hard that he jumped out of his own skin. The witch still lives in it and rolls about among the rocks to this day, mocking all who pass, though no one ever lay hold of her. The pale faces call her Echo. Sagecock became a little boy again and grew to be a mighty chief, succeeding his uncle, the eagle, as a warrior and a magician. The end. How about that for a story, huh?
That is a good one. That is a good one.
And there was no killing her heads blown off or nothing.
No, the eagle is the wizard. The wizard is the eagle.
Yeah, something like that, huh?
Yeah. That was a good one. I like it. I like it was a good Halloween one. Oh yeah.
Well, that boy knew, he knew better that to marry an ugly old witch, you know. He might have been a baby. He was that smart at least. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah. Scotty Boy says, great story. I want to be saying hi to everybody who's in the chat. Thank you for being here tonight. We got Witchy Moon and Chloe. Chloe's in the house, and Scotty Boy, of course. Oh, what would we do without him? And F Kitty, thank you for being here tonight. And we got cards coming up here in a second or two, so don't run off. We got Off the Hook. Off the Hook is in the house. Thank you for being here. And we got a bunch of others. I think Elderberry was here earlier. And we got Baby Ghost. Yes, Baby Ghost is here. Thank you for showing up tonight. And Susie Q. Susie Q, what would we do without you? And Elderberry, how are those chickens doing? Anyway, I think I got it. Yep. Okay. So with that, we have, let me pull this up. How many cards we got tonight? A whole bunch of them.
Yeah, buddy.
What are the cards going to say about the newly elected president? Yeah.
Whichever one it is at the moment.
It's all up for grabs. It's running neck and neck and close. Yeah, Wisconsin vote in. It says Harris got 48.1 and Donald Trump 50.3. You know, I don't know who is voting for these people. I mean, geez. Don't worry, people. If you, yeah. Okay. Look, it's heading now.
So what we got for this for our cards is possum upside down, awesome, showing himself. The next one is whale, again upside down. Last time they were all right side up, I believe, but now amazingly, eagle is in the cards. Now I pulled the cards before I read the story. So I didn't know that eagle was going to be in the story and also in the cards. Interesting.
Right.
The next one up is ant. We haven't seen ant in a long time. And then ant right side up. Also the eagle is right side up. And the last but not least, turtle, which is also right side up. So let me get down here and find my book.
We got a lot of cards tonight. Turtle, Tina.
Yeah, and I was like, as I was pulling them, I was like, there's more? You know, wait a minute, you want me to pull another one? Okay, but here we are. And, you know, last time we had 5. So, but, you know, there's a lot going on. So, possum is 23. Possum is diversion. We might need a diversion, each one of us. Possum's greatest form of protection is to play dead. And there's a possum that plays with Duggar all the time. And Duggar will go out there and shake that possum and he'll look around at him and he'll sniff him a minute and walk away. And sure enough, possum will run off in about 10 minutes. So in doing this, the possum confuses the predator into believing that the game is over. Possum medicine uses a great deal of strategy, diversion. If all else fails, possum just plays dead. It has the ability to fight with its claws and teeth, but it rarely uses them. And it's true, they do have claws and teeth. And when you corner them in the chicken pen, they'll give you hell. If possum is turned up in your cards, you're being asked to use strategy in some present situation. Now that's in the upright position. Rely upon your instincts for the best way out of a tight corner. If you have to pretend to be apathetic or unafraid, do it. Possum may be relaying to you that you are to expect the unexpected and be clever in achieving your victory. This could be a victory over a bothersome salesman or a nosy neighbor. Now, with it upside down, possum may be warning you against getting caught in the high drama of your life's present situation. There's a lot of weirdness going on, like the election and stuff. Don't get caught up in some of this stuff. Close your eyes and dramatize. May keep you from seeing the truth of a situation. You may buy into melodrama in yourself or others. Oh, I gotta do something. Be careful. You might as well play dead if you are justifying what you are doing with a tragic victim routine. Oh my, I just can't. In fearing to hurt someone's feelings, you may have trapped yourself in a justification pattern. Ooh, I'm too sick, I'm too poor, I'm watching my weight, I'm too short, tall, sad, busy, tired, etc. I'm an alien. The proper use of diversion is to know when you do not need to use diversion. You owe no one an excuse for how you feel or what you choose to experience. Think about that. Well, you need to think like this, or you need to do nah. So whale is number 41, the next one in our cards tonight. And 41, I believe whale is mana. And it's upside down as well. No, I'm sorry. It's record keeper. So we've got possum that's saying, watch out for diversions where you might actually not need one. And whale is the record keeper. All of the petroglyphs speak of the motherland, Mu, and the disaster that brought the red race to North America from the West. Whale saw the events that led to the settling of Turtle Island. Guess what? Turtle's the last card today. Are they linked together? We'll see. Whale is very much like a swimming library. Whale carries the history of Mother Earth and is said to have been placed here by the ancients from the dog star Sirius. It was Spock and them who brought the whale, but it's the possum. Oh, hush, Duggar. So with whale upside down, it means that it has beached itself in your cards. The contrary medicine implies that you are not following your sonar or your own homing device. On some level, you have forgotten that you hold all the answers you need to survive or to grow, and to claim the power of your own chosen destiny. Now, with all these energies and things changing the way they are these days, there are a lot of folks are being confused, and it's understandable. But remember, you hold all the knowledge. You just need to stop and listen to yourself and use it. And if you need more information, it's available. Contrary whale is saying that you must desire to know. Think about it. You must seek the whale song within you. In hearing whales call, you connect to the ancients on a cellular level. And then as you relax into the flow of the song's rhythm, you will begin to open your unique library of records. It may not come all at once, and you don't want it to. It may take practice, but you have all the knowledge that you need. Now, for those of you who've been around me a little while, I've talked about the Akashic records. And I have talked about that, folks say they go to the Akashic records, but it's their Akashic records. Each one of us has our own library, and it's right here in the whale. Yeah, you will begin to open your unique library of records. So now the next card, diversion. Do you need diversions? But you do need to find out. You do need to find out if you want to learn. There's something that you might need to learn, but you have to bring it up to yourself. You want to know it. I want to know how to shuffle cards. I want to know how to change a tire. I really want to know how to change spark plugs. Whatever it is that you want to know within your Akashic record or otherwise. Now, the next one up is Eagle, which is number 1. And it's interesting that Eagle was in the story. Before I read the story, I had already pulled the card. Eagle is spirit. Eagle medicine is the power of the Great Spirit, the connection to the divine. Whale just told us about the connecting with the our Akashic records. So here's Eagle with the spirit, bringing it in. It is the ability to live in the realm of the spirit and yet remain connected and balanced within the realm of the earth. So Whale Card was saying, hey, maybe you need to take a peek. And Eagle is saying, here's the spirit to do it with. The feathers of Eagle are considered to be the most sacred of all healing tools. They've been used for centuries by shamans to cleanse the auras of patients coming to them for healing. If you've pulled this symbol, the eagle is reminding you to take heart and gather your courage. For the universe is presenting you with an opportunity to soar above the mountains and the mundane levels of your life. The power of recognizing this opportunity may come in the form of a spiritual test. When learning to fiercely attack your personal fear of the unknown, the wings of your soul will be supported by the ever present breezes, which are the breath of the Great Spirit. Let me read that sentence again. In learning to, actually, it's a small paragraph, it's a really long sentence. In learning to fiercely attack your personal fear of the unknown, none of us know what tomorrow's going to bring. The wings of your soul will be supported by the ever present breezes, which are the breath of the Great Spirit. So if you don't think you've got enough wind to fly, just remember the breath of the Great Spirit. If you need help with your spirit, remember, just spread your wings and know that the Great Spirit is providing lift for you. Eagle medicine is the gift we give ourselves to remind us of the freedom of the skies. Eagle asks you to give yourself permission to legalize freedom. Ain't that interesting? And to follow the joy your heart desires. Next one up is number 32, Ant. Anybody getting any of this message? Yep. Ant is patience. So eagles giving you the spirit, whales telling you to, sit down and meditate and reach some information that you already got. Possum saying, you might need a diversion or not. An ant is here with patience. An ant can carry a leaf over 100 miles just to get it back to the anthill. Every ant in an anthill is part of the ant group mind. As all the ants work for the queen and the hive, self-sacrifice is a part of ant medicine. Greater than ants' other medicines, however, is patience. Ant people are active, community-minded folks who see the greater future needs of their town. So, whales telling you to access your Akashic records. And ant people are planners, like squirrel, and are content to see their dreams being built, a little at a time. And the patience does have its rewards. Ant people have a knowing about the sweet victory at the end of the line. So don't get in a hurry. Patience, my friends. The spirit of the eagle is going to bring patience. Sit down and meditate and use a diversion if it's necessary. And is working for the good of the whole. With all the things that are going on now, maybe it's the MAGA thing. Are you working for the whole? If you are, be assured that the whole wants the same goodness for you. If you're trying to bring good to the universe, then goodness is in the universe to come for you, and that it will be provided. This is an interesting message tonight, my friends. And the last card up is Turtle number 10. I'm back and forth in the book from one end to the other. So I hope this is making sense for y'all. Seems like a pretty cool message to me. You know, we're all facing with the president thing and all. The universe is telling us this is a really big hump. And we're going to have to deal with other folks. It's going to be different. And so Turtle is Mother Earth. In native teachings, Turtle is the oldest symbol for planet Earth. It is the personification of goddess energy and the eternal mother from which our lives evolve. We are born of the womb of the earth, and to her soil our bodies will return. In honoring the earth, we are asked by Turtle to be mindful of the cycle of give and take, to give back to the mother as she has given to us. If you've chosen the turtle symbol, you are being asked to honor the creative source within you. Now, what did Whale say? Go into your personal Akashic record. You're being asked to honor the creative source within you, to be grounded to the earth, and to observe your situation with motherly compassion. What does Eagle always say? To look to the horizon, to observe your situation. Use the water and the earth energies, which represents Turtle's two homes, to flow harmoniously with your situation, and to place your feet firmly on the ground in a power stance. Turtle is a fine teacher of the art of grounding. You may even be able to overcome some of your space cadet tendencies if you align yourself with Turtle. Turtle warns of the dangers of trying to push the river, as evidenced by the plodding pace that it keeps. If you draw the Turtle card, it augurs a time of connecting with the power of the earth and the mother goddess within. This is a reminder of the ally you have in Mother Earth. How about that, my friends? Not bad. I like these cards. Not bad. They might have been 5 of them, but man, what a story they telling. So, whales, be patient with the ant and eagle. Man, ooh-wee, with the spirit. Mm-hmm.
Good words. Good words for the day.
And, good words. Thank you.
Looks like Chloe must have had a turtle. She says, I miss my Godzilla turtle. I wonder what kind of turtle that was. I know. Yeah. Let's see. Looking at things.
How are we doing on time? Oh, wow. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're way ahead. I'm looking at the election stuff here.
Read a story, and we're still on ahead of time.
Trump is ahead by just a smidgen. Let's see, where else?
He's ahead 50.8 over 48 in North Carolina. So he's picked up North Carolina. He's picked up Wisconsin.
He has 227 to 172. So he's getting closer to that 270. Yeah.
And
only like
And this one says 232 to to 198.
I'm going to see if I can find a different channel.
This is Fox News. I'm watching it on the internet, but it's Fox News.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just scrolling through different news to see if I can find, who's up to date. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So far, I just got the sound off and watching, but they've been putting it right up here on this Fox News channel thing.
Well, this guy here, he's got Harris at 226 and Trump at 219. I don't like him. See, this is how things are so skewed. I can look at one and you can look at another, and one's ahead and one's behind, and it's like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, and the Fox News has a tendency to lean towards Trump, which everybody else has, hate him. So they don't want to show that he's ahead, no matter what. They can't do that. It's against the law.
Mm-hmm. Let's try another one. Here, ABC News. What does ABC News have to say? Anyway, yeah, Scotty Boy says it's all blue, but anyway, I have to say that. Then anyway, the point is that regardless of how you look at it, good, bad, or otherwise, I'm sure they've already got their winners and losers picked out ahead of time. No matter how much we vote, I swear they know who it's going to be. They just don't tell us. You think?
I think they're all scared at the moment. Both sides. Well,
they are. I mean, it's according to these guys, they're doing projections. They ain't even showing who's winning or losing. They're just showing projections. Because they already projected that Kamala is going to win California, Oregon, and Washington, Colorado, and New Mexico. And then all these other ones are just up for grabs. They already predicted for Illinois and New York. And I mean, really, she kind of, depends on who wins what. You know what I mean? It's all those electoral votes.
Well, see, they've already, this channel's already got Trump winning Pennsylvania. So that station probably, well, we're not going to call that one yet,
Yeah.
But 92% of Washington, D.C. voted for Harris. 92% in Washington, D.C.
That tells you who. Yeah, I know. It's just crazy how. I just wish these people would figure it all out. I mean, they project these things. You don't know who's winning or what, because is it a projection? Did they finish counting the votes or not? I mean, it just irritates me.
Well, see this one here comes up. It's got 59% of the votes in. And so they were calling for Harris, Washington State, because she's got 59% of the vote already.
Yeah, now they're doing, they got it up here. This is Fox News 9, and they're reporting that Harris has got 113 and he's got 178. So I don't know, see, and yet half the country isn't even done yet. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be. I like that. Thank you, Scotty Boy. Don't get my undies in a bundle. No,
we gotta keep our. We gotta keep our panties in a. Don't get our panties in a wad. Well, watching this one, Georgia 51-48.
Yeah.
Oh, Trump's got 232 to 211.
Well,
So
and
Trump
most of
just
them,
won Wyoming 71 to 27%.
yeah, according to the thing here, it's a 67% for Trump and 31% for Harris. Electoral votes. We'll have to see. You know, like I said, in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, guess what?
Hush your
I
mouth.
don't know.
Hush your mouth.
You know.
Hush your mouth. Yeah, 51 to 47 on Pennsylvania. So, you know, the state
And
that
see,
almost killed him.
Like I said, he has to really win by a huge margin. Otherwise, they can't really cover it up. You know what I mean? Like if he's
got
at
Michigan.
Huh?
He's picked up Michigan too.
Oh boy.
Yeah. He's got Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Ooh, doggies.
Yeah.
And he's ahead in Georgia. And those were the states that he really needed. So, yeah. We'll be nice, but Oh,
yeah. Anyway, hamburgers for Duggar, Mary Wynn says. Duggar sounds vicious.
That was me. Hey, Mary Wins.
She says, love one. 75% Trump vote online voting. Yeah, there you go.
I've been feeding. I cooked a pizza yesterday, and I still, got some left, but I can't do some of that sausage, and I can't do pepperoni. It just eats me up. But Duggar really likes pepperoni. He really likes, and I can't chew on the crust, so he gets that. So he's been eating pizza yesterday and today. So
there you go.
I don't leave him out.
Yep. Well, good cards tonight. Good story. Good history. Remember, everybody, stick around next week. We are going to continue on with John Smith and Newton and the story of Jamestown and Powhatan. What happened to Powhatan? I'm going to figure that one out. Anyway, he was can you imagine being the chieftain or the king who governs, thousands of people like that, like the Powhatan guy? Jeez. And they had it made. They had so much food, deer in the woods. I was reading this book, and it was talking about how there were so many deer and so many fowl in the streams and the fish. They were floating down the river. There were so many fish in the river that they were trying to hit him in the head or throw him right in with the frying pan. They didn't have any way to catch the fish. The settlers didn't. They were just trying to hit him with frying pans to get him into the into the boat. Can you imagine that? Whereas today you go to the same rivers and you're lucky to find a fish. It just tells you how we've fished everything, we've hunted everything, we've
polluted our rivers and lakes.
Yeah. Taking everything for granted. We have to make laws so that you don't kill every animal on the planet. And what's going to happen if there was ever an economy crash and people didn't have food to eat? And everything that's almost extinct would be extinct. And all the fish would be caught. All the, because what's the first thing people are going to do? They're going to be like, well, I'll just go fishing. I'll have plenty of food until there ain't no more fish. They go hunting until there's no more deer. Most people don't even hunt nowadays. I mean, you got those guys that go out, they go for the big trophy rack or whatever. But back in the day, when I was a kid, my dad went hunting for food. We were hunting to fill the freezer up. And
Yeah.
today, there ain't that many people out there hunting. I mean, if he hit a deer with the car, it was coming home with him. Today, when you
Yep.
hit a deer with the car, it stays on the side of the road.
Yeah, well, there are state laws now. You got to turn them in. You got to do this and that. But if you've hit it, most of the game wardens will say, take it home if you want it.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's the
but,
thing. People don't want it. They can go to the store and they get food. They don't want to come home and process a deer.
well, not so much my next door neighbor, Ricky and Miss Sheila. She's already got 2 deer this year, and between them, they can get 20 doe because it's 10 doe for each hunter this year.
Wow.
And so between them, they can hunt 20 doe and 4 male with racks.
Wow.
And they put them in the freezer. They don't mess around. She loves to hunt. But she's not this wild woman, but she knows how to do it. And they bring them home and he puts them in the freezer. So, Ricky's a true South Georgia redneck, and I mean highly regarded because he knows how to dress a deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's in the freezer. So
I know. I've seen people who were really good at it. I remember the Kuntz boys that lived up the road from us when I was young, and man, they would shoot a deer, and we would be. I remember being out there. I wasn't much of a hunter, but I went along to do the drives and stuff like that. I remember them shooting a deer, and by the time I walked over there, they had that thing gutted already, tagged, and it was ready to go. They were like,
it was
carrying it out
already. Yep.
Yeah, and stripping it down and cutting it up. Man, I can't imagine how fast they could do that. There was like 7 or 8 of those Kuntz boys, and they would all get a deer, maybe 2. I don't know, but they hunted a lot of deer, and yeah, I know that's how they fed the family easily. They were always eating deer meat.
Yeah, so here in Georgia, I thought, last year was a lot with 8, but this year, and to that point, my next door neighbor on this side, he's got 25 acres and they keep it cleared and a lot of it mowed, and he's got a great big deer stand and a smaller one, and they used to rent the place out to hunters, and nobody's been on that piece of property in years. So where they would take a couple of deer every year, they're one set of hunters that are gone. You know what I mean? So we've got more deer.
Yeah, well, like I said, and that's great if they hunt. Like I said, when I was a kid, everybody was a hunter. I mean, the kids in school were all going hunting. They would get these passes so they could go hunting during deer season, and everybody was. I mean, I'd go out and man, in the morning before I got on the school bus, you'd hear the gunshots and people walking up and down the road everywhere, people everywhere, and little by little, it. I like today even. My dad doesn't hunt anymore, but they talk about it, and it's like, did you see hunters? No. I only heard a few shots out there. It's like, what happened? All of a sudden, what? People just gave up hunting? Maybe that's something.
It became a bad word, and we've lost a lot of people that were that age that did hunt.
Yes.
So like the gentleman that they own this, something happened and he had to go in the hospital like me, and so he doesn't come over and hunt because he's slow and can't get around like I do, and so we got old. Plain and simple, we got old.
Yeah, yeah. And the young generation, I don't think they're into hunting like, back in the day. F Kitty says Washington State. They come out in droves, apparently. They come out of the woods everywhere. You're not alone hunting there. So,
yeah.
Scotty Boy says they hunt from a truck. I says, yeah, I did that too when I was younger. With me and my buddies. Keyword, yeah, we got old. Yeah. So there you go. Anyway, should we wrap this up so we're under just a hair under 2 hours? People can get back to watching the election, and I hope whoever you're voting for, the guy wins or a woman, but either way, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Just like that, Wisconsin, just like that too. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you everybody for showing up, and thank you Hawkeye for being my co-host again this week. And next week we will be back with number 150, believe it or not.
Believe it or not. So my dear friends, thank you. Stay healthy. Don't let your brains get out of your brain.
Absolutely. And hey, you got a show tonight?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. There are so many live programs on YouTube at the moment. Maybe.
Okay, we'll go with that. And with that, everybody, remember, don't forget to join me this Saturday. We're going to do our own little tribute to Dalibor, and check that out. And with that, remember, people, you only got so many days on this earth. Enjoy them while you can, because you never know when you can be cut down in the prime of life, and make the best of it. With that, remember to be the best frequency you want to receive. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.